Okay, let's go. Let's see that I get my Stream Deck on and going. And then we can talk about agile organizations. Yeah, it's working. Hopefully. So, agile organizations. Agile! Hostile! Like, this is a topic that's also part of the Agile Coach Education Program. And part of this live session now, the second one that I do today, is to check whether I can get the chat going. So please put something in the chat. Just say from where you are. Ask questions about agility, about the topic, anytime. So I just want to see if the chat works. And yeah, this session that I do today and some of the material I'm going to show you is just a part of a session of a part of the Agile Coach Education Program. Now let's see if that works. Yeah, then I can actually put a link to the Agile Coach Education Program in the chat now, and you should see it. Hopefully, maybe it only goes out to YouTube and Discord as far as I see it. So, this is part of that if you are interested in diving in deeper. But no push for that right now, because I know that's involved. That's if you're far ahead in your journey towards true agility and in your career as an agile coach or as an agile practitioner, as a scrum master, as whatever role you fill currently. Might be a project manager, might be developer, might actually be an agile coach. And we'll look into organizational structures in agility. And just to give you a brief, oh, that's the wrong screen. And we want to be agile. That's the wrong screen that's showing. Let me briefly see that I can get that right. Because it's showing a different screen. That is interesting. Okay. That's not what I wanted. But I'm gonna... Okay, let me hide the movies. I'll get that to work. Just give me a second, and then I can show you that. It's about organizational structures. So when we think about agile, most organizations think about the team level. They think about agile teams. Maybe the biggest entity they think about is agile release trains. If you're coming from SAFe, a team of teams. But even in SAFe, there is something beyond the agile release train. Okay, there is something beyond that also has to become agile if you want SAFe or if you want agility in general to work. And we don't need to get into all the discussions about SAFe. I have mixed feelings about it as well. But I know the good parts. I know how it is meant. And so you can use it for good. You can use it for bad. It's a tool. Like any of the frameworks. I've seen Scrum, which I love a lot, to use with bad intent, like as a tool to control people. You can abuse a tool. It's not the fault of the tool. And so let's see how organizational structures outside the team especially work and what that looks like. Sometimes we talk about flat hierarchies and stuff like that. So we have to figure out what that is. And let me now quickly fix that display here to, yes, be able to show you that. So this is, as I said, this is just a small glimpse at the Agile Coach Education Program. This was from last year's alumni. We don't have to get into their details. And I will not, definitely. So there are many challenges when we talk about the organization of an agile business. And please use the chat. I want to see if that works and what we can get out of this so that I can be more reactive and really get into the questions. By the way, before we get into it deeper, I plan to do a session where we can actually be interactive, where you can sign up for free for a Zoom call that we then do, maybe on a bi-weekly basis or on a monthly basis, that you could join and actually ask questions more directly. If you're interested in that, just let me know. Send me a message or something. Then I can put you on a list when we start that. I think this is even better than writing comments. But this is also for passive listening now. You can just sit back and enjoy. So the challenge is in agility. Excuse my coughing. I'm still have a slight cold. Oh, I can check the push to mute button. Hope that works. At least that one. So a big challenge is, of course, the silos. We all know that. Like this is the traditional challenge we see. Okay, many traditional companies were built on the idea of functional separation. So you have a design department, you have a development department, a marketing department, a test department. You have operations somewhere. It's separated, and the problem is that products, or the value streams more broadly said, that really deliver value to the customer run orthogonally to these silos. To deliver a valuable product to the customers, you need all of them. You need people from design, from development, from marketing, from test, from operations. You need all of that. And this is not a new revelation, but in the past, this led to, and this was when I was at university in the 90s and early 2000s, we talked about matrix organizations as one form. And matrix organizations seem to be the pervasive organizational form today, as far as I see. And I always hear Jürgen Apelo say that this is the worst form of organization you could get. And Jürgen has a point there. It's actually kind of, it unites the worst of all worlds to have a matrix organization. The idea of a matrix organization is that you still have the functional departments, and then you also have like product departments or value stream departments. The problem then is everyone has at least two bosses with different intentions, different goals, different ideas how to do things, and they are constantly fighting over resources, right? Like resources in that case, that fancy word meaning just people. They are fighting over the people and their time. And this is usually not, or you might be able to implement a matrix organization in a good way, but usually what happens is that people need to work 60% on the design department and 60% on product A and 20% on product B. So that doesn't add up to 100%. That adds up to a lot more. And that's a problem. Okay? That's a big problem. For people, it's not fun in these organizations. Another problem is that because there's no single decision, double workload. Thank you, David. Thank you. I see the chat now. I'm so happy. It took me, 5 streams to get that going. Yes. Double the workload, sometimes even more. And it's often not by bad intent. It's not that your functional boss or your product boss does that to hurt you or to exploit you. It's just that they have different goals and they don't talk to each other. That's a problem. They don't talk. They come from different parts of this organization. And what happens then is if they really fight over your time or over the team's time, then what happens is that their dispute bubbles up further in the hierarchy. And at some point, usually pretty high up in that hierarchy of a matrix organization, there is someone who then makes a decision, a prioritization decision. It's more important to work on that or to work on that. The problem is that this tends to evolve into an organization where every little tiny decision is made on a very high management level. And of course, these poor managers then have nothing to do all day, then run around and making decisions, running from meeting to meeting to meeting, and everyone wants them to settle their disputes. And they don't have any time to think about strategic development or even coaching people, like what real leaders should do. They just don't have time. So matrix organization, not a good idea in Jürgen's experience, and also in my experience, it has lots of problems. Although the initial idea sounds great. So we don't want that. In agile organizations, what we tend to do is sometimes we get rid of the functional departments, or we turn them into chapters or tribes, or there's different names people abuse, like the Spotify terms, freely. And up to that point, frankly, everyone's confused. Which is what? A guild, a chapter, a tribe. Maybe tribe is clear, but a chapter and guild, I've seen that confused all the time. Doesn't matter. And then we turn the products, product A and product B, into the real new silos, frankly. Yes, new silos. That's all we have done in some companies in the past. We exchanged one type of silo with another type of silo. Now, granted, that new type of product silo is now more aligned with the customer. It's more customer-centric. So you could argue it's a step forward, and it is. But still, we are not, in most organizations, we cannot make product A completely independent of product B. The world is easier if you can. So if you can basically make your corporation a bunch of little startups that work on these products and just loosely collaborate and help each other, but not really tightly coupled. That's ideal. You can do that. But yes, not every company wants to do that. It's a big step. And I'm not even aware whether this would be the best solution for everyone. A big problem. That is a big problem in organizations generally, in agile organizations specifically. Or specifically? No, in any organization. It's dependencies. There are dependencies between teams, between departments. We just saw the dependencies between different, like in the matrix organization. Dependencies, and then between like resource dependencies between different products, or just like dependencies within a product from one team to another. How do we deal with that? So we need to set up organizational structures in a way to deal with that. And there's more to dependencies. I'm going to get to that because that's also misunderstood in my experience. Managing dependencies should not be your first thought. Alignment. This is a big one. Alignment. I hear that all the time. If we are agile and every team is self-managing and they can decide what to do, then everybody will run off in a different direction. So we will not have any alignment anymore. How do we get people to work on the same thing at the same time? This is a question that I hear traditional managers ask. And it's a legit question. They don't know how it can work. They don't have the understanding. They don't have the experience. They haven't seen different environments. As agile coaches, we have seen different environments. We know that it's not a problem. We know how to solve this. But it's a challenge that companies see during an agile transformation. So we have to provide an answer. We have to show them the way how alignment works. And that alignment, that's important, is not the opposite of agility or of self-management or of autonomy. We often talk about autonomous teams. Autonomous teams are not the opposite of alignment. That's important to understand. And I'm going to show you a nice sketch from Henrik Nieberg. A few hours ago, I just watched a nice talk by Henrik Nieberg. He's a famous agile coach, famous for presenting the Spotify model. And I just saw a presentation about procedural generation of terrain in Minecraft, where he's working. So it's awesome. But back to the topic, alignment. Henrik Nieberg has a nice sketch to make clear that alignment and autonomy are not polar opposites. And that's important to understand if you want to get to an agile organization. So what else do we have? Communication. How do we organize that? We know that the Agile Manifesto states that face-to-face communication is the most effective and efficient form to transfer information from business to developers. But if we have many, many teams, a big Agile release train, or another form of just like hundreds of people collaborating, not everybody can talk to everybody all the time. That's not how it works. So how can we do that? And how can we ensure that the important communication happens? The skill sets, like experts that we need, how do we cope with that? That's often a question. Like we have only that one AI expert or that test expert. How are we gonna do that with the teams? They all need that person. What are we gonna do? That's not exhaustive. That's not all the problems or challenges we see. But I think it's a good chunk of it. Okay, it gets a good feel for the challenges, and I want to tackle a few of them right now. As I said, the real deep stuff comes in the Agile Coach Education Program, but here I want to deal with a few of them, and a few solutions. Maybe not all the solutions, but a few solutions I can show you. So aspects of organization. Alignment. And here is that nice sketch from Henrik Nieberg. And by the way, if you're a developer and a geek, I love to see, check out the presentation on the procedural terrain generation in Minecraft. It's nice. It's not very deep, so it's possible to go in there without a game developing background. It's just interesting. It's not very fancy stuff, but it's just interesting to see how they go about it because they have a constraint. They're generating pretty big worlds and the stuff needs to run on pretty weak devices. So that's an interesting geek challenge. Back to the topic. You see, I'm an engineer at heart. This is the idea. So if you sketch autonomy on one axis here, autonomy from low autonomy to high autonomy. Autonomy means teams are self-managing. They can decide how they work, on what they work, when they work, with whom they work. Ideally, all of these, but have a lot of autonomy how they get the stuff done. And here they don't. And then on the y-axis, we have the alignment. How aligned are we? How aligned are the teams and the people on the teams or the departments in a company towards a common goal? So we have low alignment and we have high alignment. What we ideally, or what the worst place to be is low autonomy, low alignment. So everyone does their own thing, but they cannot decide what they do on their own. So this is pretty depressing. Oh, sorry. Push to mute. I will check the recording later on. We'll see if that worked. I hope that you don't hear my coughing all the time. And so we have the two options. That comes to mind when we talk about alignment and autonomy, usually in managers' minds, in people's minds that have no experience with agility whatsoever, or with true agility. For example, we need to cross the river. Build a bridge, guys. And then everyone knows what to do. They are all aligned on the goal of building a bridge. They know what to do. They have no choice whatsoever. They just execute. It's that old Tayloristic model, okay? Scientific management, Taylorism, states that the manager thinks and the worker executes. The workers don't need any brains. They just execute. They just build the bridge. They don't even know how. The manager will give them a process how to build it. This is the old world. Spoiler alert, this doesn't work for knowledge work. And it doesn't motivate people. So that's a huge problem. This is part of why agility is so superior. And by the way, agility is superior. I just recently saw a list of the most valuable companies in the world. Companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, whatever. They are all agile. All the most valuable companies in the world are agile. They don't necessarily use the agile framework that your company might use, but they are agile, and that's their advantage. This is how they became the most valuable companies in the world. So if you want to join the pack, better believe in that it works. And that Taylorism is basically, you cannot do that scientific management anymore, where the manager thinks and the worker just executes. That's not going to be successful, at least in most areas. Maybe there are exceptions, but in almost any area today, this is not going to lead to success. So you can have high alignment, low autonomy. So you have no agility, no autonomy, no motivation. The people are all gray, but you have alignment. Great, towards a common goal. The opposite would be you have high alignment, low alignment, and high autonomy. And that's kind of the manager thinking, okay, I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I hope someone is working on the river problem, okay, crossing the river. And everyone is doing their own thing, running in the wrong direction. This is the nightmare that many managers have when it comes to agility. Or this is the nightmare when they first figure out that agility is not only telling people what to do in different ways, but it's actually allowing people to decide themselves what to do and how to do it. And that's a big leap of faith. And this is the nightmare that's in their mind. Everyone running in a different direction, no one even working on the problem that the company is supposed to solve anymore. Most think these are polar opposites and there is no in between. But what I like about Henrik Nieberg's sketch here is that it makes clear there is a quadrant up there of high alignment and high autonomy. And it's not a utopia. It's real. We can get that. That works. The only question is, how does it work? How do we make it work? And the thing is, in that case, and you see it immediately, the manager basically says, we need to cross the river. So I'm stating a clear goal, a clear high-level goal. But I say, figure out how yourself. So this is the magic secret sauce. And I just posted last week, I think I posted a meme with the puzzle. Where is it? Oh. Here, that meme with a puzzle. Maybe you can find it on my LinkedIn stuff. About self-management. This is exactly how that works. You give people the puzzle. You don't tell them what to do. You don't even tell them to solve the puzzle. You just prop up the image of the finished puzzle. And then you get out of the way, provide some coffee, and let people do the job. And they will, without you telling them. And you will get the final finished puzzle. You don't need to manage them. You don't need to incentivize them. You don't need to tell them who's responsible for what, and make racy matrices on whatever you have. Don't. The only thing you need to do is show them the goal. Show them the final picture, and they will do the rest. And this is exactly what that manager here does. We need to cross the river. That's the goal. I don't care how. You figure out how. You're the experts. Maybe you build a bridge. Maybe you build a boat. Maybe there is some way to drive around that. Whatever. You have a hot air balloon. I don't care. I just want to cross the river. This is what's creating value. I don't care how you do it. And I'm not going to tell you how, because I'm not that thinking manager that does the thinking for you, because you are highly paid professionals to think yourself. You're knowledge workers. And you know what? People like that. We like autonomy. We like it if we are not told how to work. We like it if nobody tells us when to work and how to do our work. And ideally, we love it when people don't tell us with whom to work, so we can decide ourselves. And yes, the great Agile companies actually do that. If you come in to Tesla at 5 in the morning, actually you probably come a little early to figure it out, to start working at 5 a.m. You decide where you go, with whom you work, on what topic you work, and how you do the work. You don't decide when you work, though. That's just, most companies cannot afford to give autonomy on all of these parts, of all of these 4 parts of autonomy that at least Dan Pink states. But hey, I would be fine if you at least allowed people the autonomy in how they do the work. You just tell them, figure out, we need to cross the river, figure out how. And this creates alignment. This goal creates alignment. The image on the cover of the puzzle here creates alignment. Tesla stating that their goal is to accelerate the transition of the world towards sustainable energy creates alignment. That's alignment. And let people figure out how to get there on their own. And that's a big leap, but this is how we create alignment and how we get rid of that fear, that nightmare below here that managers usually have. You can create alignment that way. It takes a whole different, or not a whole different, it takes, for most people, it takes a different approach to management and leadership and how you manage people. It's that idea, like with the puzzle. You don't tell them, you 2 people, please, you form a team and you find the edge pieces. And you next 2 people, you find all the green pieces. No, that is traditional management. What we actually want to do is get out of the way. Don't tell people how to assemble, what to do. Just tell them the goal. And many managers, and that's quite astonishing to me when I coach companies. Many managers, heads of departments, product managers, whatever, fail at that simple rule. State the goal. Make the goal clear. First, state a clear goal, not 50 goals, not 10 goals, 1 clear goal. Make sure everyone understands and knows that goal. And then step aside. Let them figure it out. If they say they need something from you, provide it to them. But otherwise, let them do the job. And it works. It works. Like the puzzle proves that. If you want to try the puzzle game, just to your next workshop, bring a puzzle and just put it on a table. Don't say anything. Prop up the goal, the final picture, and then just don't watch it anymore. Don't say anything, don't watch it, and after 1 or 2 workshop days, you will see the finished puzzle. Like magic. You don't have to motivate people. You don't have to tell them what to do. You don't have to figure out who the experts are that you put on the team. No, it will be done. And of course, that's just symbolizing what happens here. So this is how we get alignment. This is kind of a new way to organize. You don't organize people in departments and teams and groups and all that. Yes, we might still need to think about that, but the main thing, how you create alignment, is you give them a clear goal. You don't give them 10 clear goals, you give them 1 clear goal. It's clear. You make sure that everyone understands it. It's not enough to have the goal in your desk drawer. Nobody knows about it. I've seen plenty product managers who had the vision in their mind, but no one else knew it. Or if you ask different people, they thought they would work towards different goals, visions. I've even seen companies who have, 10, 20, 50 North Stars. Like a North Star is the idea of something that it's one thing. If The North Star is special because it's one star you can identify in the sky, at least on the Northern Hemisphere, as I learned. In the South, you have to use the Southern Cross, which are actually multiple stars. So that ruins my analogy. Let's stay on the Northern Hemisphere. The North Star is one star. If you have 10 North Stars, you cannot navigate anymore. The whole purpose of that thing, to help you in navigation and to help you in moving in that direction, is that it's only one. So stick to one clear goal and put everything on that goal. And make sure that people know that goal and understand it. And then get the heck out of the way and let people do the work. Treat them like adults. They don't need babysitters and micromanagers. So that's alignment. Communication. That's a topic. Yeah, I don't have fancy pictures for that yet. Communication. There are different communication frequencies we have. Some people might need to talk daily. Some might need to talk weekly. Some less. Occasionally. And there are different ways. These are the challenges, and there are different approaches that solve that in a different way. For example, on a Scrum team, we have the daily stand-up, and we have on a less frequent basis, we have sprint reviews, for example, where then the stakeholders come in and can get feedback. This is more on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, or a fourth-weekly basis. And we have people who come in less frequently. Maybe if you're doing SAFe, you have these PI system demos, and it's once a quarter. And then maybe the big bosses from the international departments come in and see the progress and can give feedback. With some people, you need to communicate daily. That's probably the people who should be on your team. You should talk to them regularly, not only in the daily, but throughout. Like, a team is really a group of people collaborating towards a common goal. A team is not a bunch of people in an org chart that all have their separate to-do lists. That's not a team. That's just, I don't know what that is. Group of people. Sometimes you need to communicate with other teams, maybe on a weekly basis. There are different solutions. SAFe, for example, has solutions for that, like the Scrum of Scrums. Oh, I missed the Scrum of Scrum today. Not a problem. My colleague Joseph took that Scrum of Scrum with a client. And so you have Scrum of Scrums, you have product owners things, you have art things. In SAFe, you have different possibilities to do that if you're not doing SAFe. But there are different, depending on the frequency, you have different solutions. Also, how to get in experts occasionally. When you need that one guy from the legal department because there is a tricky issue on some specific compliance stuff, and you need that person. So I'm probably gonna get into that with the solutions. Yeah. Aniela, by the way, thank you for the feedback. If you cannot watch the whole thing, if you cannot watch it now, I think LinkedIn records this, and you can, or also you're on LinkedIn, yeah. LinkedIn records this, and you can watch it later if you want to. if you can stand listening to my voice that long. If you think it's just too long to watch, no matter what time, then yeah, sorry about that. Maybe I can offer more compact stuff, but these sessions are supposed to be like I'm chatting about the things and giving you little glimpses. It's not like a paid course where I try to compress it so that you get, in the minimum of amount of time, you get the maximum out of it. So I hope it was the first thing that you just don't have time right now, and you can come back later and then watch it. So dependencies. This is the big one. I do not love dependencies, but I love to talk about dependencies because I think this is a big issue for many companies. Currently coaching a client, and I think dependencies is one of their big issues. Mindset, culture is another one of their issues, yes, but dependencies is also a biggie. This, by the way, is, and I'm talking about SAFe far too much. I do SAFe transformations, I do other transformations. I'm not a fan of SAFe in that I think you should use SAFe in every company, but I'm also, I criticize parts of it, but I also see the positive parts. So again, SAFe is a tool, and it's a great tool if you know how to use it. It's a horrible tool if you don't, but that's true for every tool. Okay. A knife, if you don't know, a sharp knife, if you don't know how to deal with it, you're gonna hurt yourself. And I don't know if SAFe is a sharp knife. SAFe is probably more like, I've seen these images where it's like a Swiss Army knife, but with way too many things sticking out. There's some kind of truth to that. So I think SAFe could do better in some parts, making clear what's really important, like what we do in the Agile Coach Education Program, instead of kind of making it very easy for people to hook onto the big picture and the organizational structure they built. And then people think this is the majority because it's like literally 90% of the picture. But it's not. Like the secret is below, more tiny. Yes, it's as the foundation, but people, I think, don't get that. Improvement. But SAFe is also iterating. So I have hopes for the future. Dependencies are a big issue. If you have dependencies between different teams, and if you don't know these boards, these are just different teams here, the unicorns team, the lions team, the bears teams. You should give your team funny names. You shouldn't give your team names according to the function they play, because that's going to restrict the team. Okay, and this is going to lead to functional silos anyway. So if your team is only don't restrict them. Just give funny names. Okay, it has a purpose why we do this. It's not just for joking. And then you have different things that are dependent. Like you cannot do this one here unless you have this, this, and this. So a traditional project manager would flag this maybe as on the critical path, especially stuff that ends up here and has many like dependencies. This is where most companies and most teams stop. They do that in some form or another. Like in SAFe, you do that, but in different ways, you can do it differently. They document the dependencies. They identify the dependencies and then they document them. And that's it. But that's not helping. I mean, that's only the beginning. The purpose here is not only to document the dependencies. The real value comes when you start to eliminate the dependencies. This is managing versus eliminating. I have so many people who manage dependencies. They use Jira or their own tools to kind of make dependency fields and then link everything to everything, and no one's gonna understand that anyway after some time. But they have different kinds of links, like this depends on this, and this is non-blocking, and this. Oh, I can see the point, and there's some value in documenting it, but don't stop there. The whole purpose of this exercise is to figure out how can we eliminate most of the dependencies. Because to be frank, most dependencies are homemade. They don't come. They are not domain inherent. They don't come from the difficult problem you're trying to solve. Most of them are just, we constructed them. Mainly or often by building silos. If you build siloed teams, yes, you have dependencies. If the bears are the database department and the tigers are a user interaction team, and the lions build the feature, then yes, of course, they are depending on that. That is just the normal thing that will happen. And you created these dependencies yourself. If you would just take the one person from here, from the database department, one person from the UX team, and put them on the other team. Then you would have resolved the dependencies. No dependencies anymore. You can build it together. So that is one way to resolve dependencies. Son just got home. I got a glitter jar. Do you know what a glitter jar is? Here it is. Excited to see it, and I'm worried to shake it right now because it's probably gonna go over my laptop. Glitter is nasty. So we can reorganize teams sometimes. So breaking up these silos can already get rid of many of the dependencies. Other dependencies are when I look at, and I just had a session on that, when I look at user stories or the backlog. And I think I had, let me see, on the, this is, by the way, the Agile Compass. That's, I cannot post that to LinkedIn somehow, but I can show you later the link. Had something on user stories. Yeah, writing user stories. Here, there was an article about writing user stories and how that can actually affect dependencies as well. So if you want to read that, check it out. Better sign up to the Agile Compass, then you get all of that and more. The thing is, if you, most companies who start out with agility and try to do an agile transformation don't use true user stories. And if you do not use real user stories, but you essentially use your old requirements and work packages that you had in the past, just written in the form of a user story, some people can do that, then they are not independent. Or they are hard. You have a tough time making them independent. And that's just because they are not user stories. If you think about it, like traditional requirements, you cannot simply map traditional requirements one-to-one to user stories. I see that sometimes when they start an agile transformation and the first thing that the product owner or product manager does is go through their old backlog or to their list of requirements and then rewrite everyone in the user story format. Like this, as a role, I want to do something in order to get some value. And then they complain. They complain that it isn't so hard to write that in user story format. If you have something like, oh, we need to add a database table, or we need to add a column in the database. Then they say, okay, what do I put as a role and as a business value here? It's hard. And my answer is always, yes, it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to tell you that you're doing the wrong thing. If it's too hard, take a step back and think. Because adding a column in the database is not a user story. A user story, and this is just a small deviation here. User story is supposed to be a story that your user could tell. This is what's called user story, through the eyes of the user. The user doesn't even know about databases, let alone how they work and what a column is and what that does. They don't care. They care about their jobs they need to get done, the jobs to be done. JTBD. You can also Google that. It's also great to know about that approach. It's customer-centric. Jobs to be done. So you cannot map traditional requirements to user stories just one-on-one. You have to completely rewrite your backlog. And most companies I see starting an agile transformation don't do that or don't want to do that. Oftentimes I come in when an agile transformation is already underway or some other company already tried to help them become agile and it didn't work. So then the damage is already done and I have to kind of backtrack from there. And even if I'm lucky enough to be there initially to help them take the first steps into agility, then they're often reluctant to just to rewrite, to restructure their backlog instead of just copy pasting stuff. But that's important because this way you get it independent. Now we get to the dependencies. If you have something that says, okay, here's the database, we need to add the column to the database, we need to change some function in the business logic layer and add some API endpoint, and then we need to have the user interface where the people can actually click and see the result. Of course, these three things are depending on each other. You cannot have one without the other. Or it's not possible. Yes, you could mock it, but then you couldn't present it to the user and get meaningful feedback. If you just add the column and you present the database schema to the customer, they will just think you're crazy. Okay? Don't give me that. I'm caring about my business, not your business. So what we actually want with user stories is not these slices. We want the orthogonal slices. We want that. We want a little feature that goes through the whole system, from database to business logic to user interface. And then the next slice, the next tiny feature. This is how we slice it. And now, when we have these slices, they are automatically, that's the magic, they are automatically mostly independent. Not always, but you have far fewer dependencies that way. So, rewriting your backlog, writing true user stories actually gets rid of dependencies before it even happens. And by the way, that thinking about getting rid of dependencies before you start documenting and managing and optimizing them might remind you of, there is this algorithm, the algorithm that we sometimes hear Elon Musk talk about, or people at SpaceX or Tesla anyway, which is most people start at the fifth step. So it's optimizing things, automating things. Okay, it's automating. The step before that is optimizing things. We hardly ever think about the first step, or the first two steps. The first step is question the requirement. Like, make requirements less dumb. Because sometimes requirements, if you think about them, they can be eliminated. You don't have to do anything. But you have to think about that. Not always, but sometimes requirements they come from weird places. Sometimes. So question every requirement. That's actually what they do. And then you try to eliminate the requirement or the part or the feature altogether. Think about that. Or eliminate the dependency altogether. That's the big part. And then, only then, do you start to kind of manage it and try to optimize it and all that. That's a big one for me. So get rid of dependencies. And if you still, there will still be dependencies. I hardly ever see a big product without, or a bigger company without any dependencies, despite having true user stories and despite not having silos. So these dependencies can be managed. There is a nice tool from Management 3.0, the dependency breakers. It's just a set of cards with no magic involved. It's just ideas how to decouple dependencies. Many things. Like as an engineer, I know the mocking and stubbing. Like you could just develop a common interface and then you have fake data here and you don't need the other part. You can work on your own. Or maybe you don't all work on the same server, but everyone has their own development server with copies so that you can work independently. And then, of course, you would continuously integrate, but you are decoupled. The other person, the other team is not blocking you. You don't have to wait. You don't have these strings here in the thing. So that's, there are many ways to get rid of dependencies. But that's one challenge. Other challenges are in organizations and that we try to solve with organizations. and this is what we're here for, agile organizational structures, talk about that, is decisions. I already talked about decisions in the when we talked about matrix organizations. The importance for companies today is decision speed and quality. You want to make good decisions fast. That's the goal, right? And in a traditional company, that's on the left here, you have one person making the decision. Okay, that's simplified. You usually have a bigger hierarchy, okay? But one person making the decision. The problem is, for that person to make the decision, that person has to have, and to make a quality decision, that person has to have the information. So the information has to be delivered from the people here up to the management. They have to report the information. The management has to aggregate that, understand that, find time, it's difficult sometimes, and make a decision. So these people are very busy making decisions all the time. They don't have time for strategic thinking, for developing people, for coaching, none of that stuff. That's way low on their list because they have so many decisions to make. The problem is, it cannot be a speedy decision because these people are very busy. So sometimes it takes weeks until they can kind of come together to make a decision. Sometimes it's multiple people that have to make a decision, a committee. And the information has to be passed on to them. And if you pass on information, things are going to get lost. Knowledge is going to get lost. Hidden assumptions, context that is present here on the team level might not be transferred up here. There is a nice podcast, if you're into that and if you have trouble sleeping tonight, that's called Cautionary Tales. Cautionary Tales. Just a little tip, check that out. There are great stories, for example, about decision making and about how generals in armies made decisions and tried to gather information from the troops, make a decision and then pass the instructions. That's the next thing. You have to pass the instructions what to do back down to the people. And so much gets lost. And it's hilarious and it's sometimes sad just in if people die in the old times with these generals. How much gets lost on these strings here, okay? But also the speed. I mean, it takes time to gather that information. It takes time to then send it to the people to make the... You neither have speed nor quality decisions. But this is the default model how companies operate today. And sometimes you see on LinkedIn, you see funny memes, people telling you that the chain of commands, what happens until it arrives at the top and then arrives back here. It's completely ridiculous. And a good thing to dive into here is the turn the ship around. I'm going to let me put the title here. Turn the ship around. A great book. You can find the author among my connections here on LinkedIn. You might have seen posts from him, maybe even, because we're connected. And so Turn the Ship Around, great book. Also a talk, nicely illustrated sometimes, that talks about a submarine commander. Is it commander or captain? It's captain, I think. Yeah, it's Navy. Submarine captain. And he basically has to make all the decisions on the ship. They all report to him, and then he has to figure out what to do, and he has to give the commands. It's neither speedy nor quality decisions. And it's a lot of stress on this person, and it's a lot of... You take away autonomy from these people. It's not very motivating. And you don't use the brains here that you have. So the alternative to decision making is that. Decentralized decision making. Just let the people here make the decision. They already have the information. They already have the context. They can make the decision. They can make speedy decisions. And if you provide them the rest of the information, like maybe business data, they will also have the enough information to make quality decisions. And once they made the decision, they can immediately execute it. So it's fast and it's quality. But it takes trust in trusting people to actually do that. And that's so hard to give up for some managers. This is where the part that I always talk about, but not today, comes in, is the view of the human being and assuming positive intent. Once you can shift your view to that new perspective of how human beings work, then this becomes much easier. This becomes so much easier. Look at Turn the Ship Around. And I just see I cannot post to LinkedIn. I just see with the chat. So I have to find a different way to do that. So decentralized decision making. This is how all the agile companies work. How all the valuable companies in the world work. This is, for example, at Tesla. People make their own decisions. There's no manager telling them what to do and deciding. There's also all the information. Every employee has all the information. The sales numbers, the prices, what's going on in the supply chain. They can negotiate with suppliers on their own if they need to. It's a lot of trust they put in people. And this is rewarded by very motivated people who make quality decisions in a very speedy fashion. They are insanely fast. It's mind-blowing. Okay, it's also at the other companies I mentioned, like Amazon and stuff, and also SpaceX is mind-blowing. How quickly they can kind of come up with new rocket prototypes and shoot them in the air and let them explode, and then build the next one, and then just 2 months later it's on the launch pad. And yeah, unless they blow up the launch pad, that took a little longer. But hey, that's part of the fun of it. As long as people don't get hurt. That's nice. So make decentralized decisions. Let people make the decisions. Trust them to make the decisions. It's so much faster. And then you can get rid of much of what we know today as these organizational structures. We don't need that, actually. We don't need much of that anymore. You will not find many managers at Tesla. I don't think there's a manager. I mean, Elon Musk himself calls himself, I think, like the chief engineer or something. So he just wants to be one among the other engineers. Granted, it's his company, like he has the big part of the stock, and he's probably not going to act like every other engineer, but I think they still have managers, but it's only for compliance reasons, like the minimum amount. It's Joe Justice, when he talks about it, he says that a traditional company might have 50% of the staff is actually in management and in leadership positions, or maybe more, and only 50% or less of the people are actually working. Building the stuff, creating value. And not that these people aren't working, but they are not directly creating the value. They are just helping others to create the value. And they could help them in different ways if we come to agility. And at Tesla, it's more like 99% of people are engineers, are actually working. And the few managers are there for compliance reasons, because, for legal reasons, you need to have someone you can turn to in case of problems and stuff like that. So that's definitely important. Keep people for that, but not for making decisions about this. It's not good. It's also what you know from lean production, or what we know from lean production, where it's leadership on all levels. You want to have people who are actually at the factory floor making the decisions, and also talking about problems or maybe improvements they see. And there's also one other thing that I wanted to say about decisions. I forgot it. Maybe it comes to me. when we talk about the level? What I said is to make quality decisions on that level, you need the information. You need transparency, but not transparency for the managers to see what the employees are doing, but transparency for the people on the teams to know what the company is doing. At Tesla, for example, they have software tools for that. They have, everyone probably has smartphones and stuff like that, or tablets, and they have access to all the data. And at Spotify, that Cliff says that often, that the only thing that people do not copy from Spotify, they all want to copy the Spotify model, but what people do not copy is the culture of making all information transparent to everyone. Like at Spotify, every employee could see all the sales data, the business data, who's what customer and whatever. So they had access to the full information so that they could make quality decisions. So give up that information monopoly. Sometimes people use that to defend their power position, but that's weak. That's actually very weak. Share the information with everybody and then trust people to make the decisions. External suppliers. I just put that here as a placeholder because that's often an issue that I see. Many companies today are, they are very distributed. They are not vertically integrated. Okay, I sometimes think that over decades, industries tend to breathe somehow. Like sometimes they integrate vertically, then they outsource again. Then they integrate vertically again, then they outsource again. I don't know if there's a certain rhythm to that, but it's interesting. Don't need to show you. Oh, don't need to show the chat. So external suppliers, that's often a problem because I know that from the automotive business, the car manufacturers, the big ones that you know, are actually just, they're hardly doing anything when it comes to the car. They outsourced so many things, and so many other companies do that. They outsource the stuff. Often software development is outsourced, and software development is not just something that's not critical to your business anymore. We saw problems like the Southwest disaster and stuff like that. Software development is core business for most companies nowadays. For banks, for automotive manufacturers, for so many people, it's core. So you have to have that in-house, at least part of it. You cannot outsource that, but it takes time. I get that. You have long-running contracts and it takes time to insource that again. It's also we're trying to find good people and there are not enough good engineers. In software, I myself, I left the software engineering crowd to do what I do now because I have a bigger lever to create value for my clients. But I still love software engineering, and if I want, sometimes I see the salaries and I think, wow, that's actually competitive. And sometimes it's more fun to just write code again. As I said, I enjoyed the Henrik Nieberg talk on the Minecraft procedural terrain generation. I'm just a geek. But external suppliers, yeah. A company like Tesla or also SpaceX, they are very vertically integrated. They still use a lot of stuff they get from the outside, but compared to others in their businesses, they are insanely vertically integrated. And not only to the outside, but it's also the cross-functional teams. They're really living it. This morning, I just read that Volkswagen created another software hub now to kind of catch up to the Chinese manufacturers and Tesla. And I immediately thought, wow, department again. They are trying to build a software hub. That's not the solution. Maybe, I don't have the details. Maybe it's just the start and they're gonna go work well with that and integrate it. But the real solution is, if you look at the companies who do it right, there is a small group of people, like a team, cross-functional team, maybe 3-4 people. There's one software developer, there's one hardware developer, there's one manufacturing robot programmer, and they are all there, cross-functional, working at the same thing. And also doing each other's work, like T-shaped. They are T-shaped. The software developer will weld something occasionally, which is crazy. But that helps to understand, that helps the communication, and that helps to work better together. This is the magic of a cross-functional team. That doesn't work if you have a software hub here and a hardware production here. Okay? Volkswagen, if you're listening, please don't do that. I hope you're building this with ex-Tesla guys, so I hope they will tell you how it works, okay? That you gotta get it together. I really hope that they can do it. So, and it's even worse with external suppliers, you can imagine. So that's just a challenge. By the way, if you're interested in deeper stuff, because I couldn't post the link to the chat from here, it doesn't work with LinkedIn. It just can only post to Discord and to YouTube. So you can go to the Agile Compass, and then this was the page that I showed you earlier where the articles are, and you can just sign up and you will get them delivered to your inbox once a week. It's free. We also have a paid version where you can then get access to the Discord and stuff and get more involved, but you can just join it for free and read the articles, and it's more like what I talk about now. So, after the external suppliers, there are other challenges that we have, like global distribution. Like not distribution, but distribution of the teams, like in an organization. The organization is often globally distributed, especially nowadays when there's a lot of remote work. And the challenge is distance sometimes, if we want to meet in person. Like we have that with my client right now. There are people from India sometimes, and it's hard for them to get visa to Europe on a short-term notice. I mean, short-term meaning like 4 to 6 weeks, something. It's even too brief to sometimes get a visa. So distance can be difficult. Time zones, of course, you only have these windows. Cultures are a thing. Like there are different cultures. People have different assumptions, different contexts in different parts of the world. Maybe it's not dependent only on the country, but it's dependent on the community around you. And we have different languages, of course. Most companies I work with work in English, but that's different. So sometimes you have to be aware that people are not native speakers. I am not. I've been living and working in the Silicon Valley for some time, and I went to high school in Georgia. So U.S. state, Georgia. So I have a decent understanding of English. I don't have problems usually, unless there's some weird Scottish accent or whatever. But many people don't have, are not natural speakers, not native speakers. And what you can do is, for example, that is, you can speak international English. I don't right now, but sometimes in workshops we do that, where we agree to speak international English. International English just means you speak slowly and louder, but yes, you speak a little slower. You try to not get into slang. You use simple words. You don't use elaborate words, like elaborate. You use simple words. And you express it a lot with your facial miming and with gestures. That this is, I mean, be aware of that. This is sounds simple, but it's so important for communication. And also the cultures. Be aware of different cultures. There is an index that you can get to with where you can see the power distance in different countries. Like how much or how likely is a person willing to oppose their boss and tell their boss that this is a stupid idea? There are countries where people are totally comfortable with that. They don't care about the hierarchy. And there are other companies where it's seen as not something you should do to oppose your boss. And to know that helps you understand why people behave in certain ways. So just be aware, be culturally aware. Be aware that not everyone is a native speaker, and then the time zone issues. There are ways to work around that, but these are just organizational issues. Then we have Conway's Law. This is, if you don't know it, it basically states that the architecture of your product, how it is built, mirrors your organizational structure. If you had a team here and a team here, you're going to see that clearly in the product later on. So just be aware of that. It's not a bad thing. Just be aware of it. And the kind of inverse of Conway's Law is Justice's Law. Joe Justice coined that when he was at Wikispeed, his car company that built cars with Scrum. That if you look at your product and you try to modularize it, you try to break it down into modules that you can then separate, is again reducing dependencies. That's the thinking. Reducing dependencies so that people can build it on your own. Then you should structure your organization around the modules you build. Okay? And not in a functional way or something, but structure them around the modules. That's kind of the inverse of Conway's Law. It's also interesting. So now I'm talking for a very long time and people are still here and I'm happy. Use the chat, please. Ask questions in the chat. Give me some feedback. Let me know where you're from, for starters. And then please ask questions so that I can dive into some stuff. So I'm almost doing the full session here that is part of the Agile Coach Education Program. Like there is much more. We go into much more detail and there are many more sessions on that program. If you're interested in that, it's a 6-month program. It's not full-time. Like you can do the 6-month program in parallel to your regular job. Okay, that's how it's designed. It's maybe 3 to 5 hours a week that you need to do that program. So it's stretched over 6 months on purpose so that you can do it. If you really want to learn, not necessarily only if you want to become an Agile coach. I mean, you will be a great Agile coach after that. But also when you just want to become a better leader or get a better understanding of that, become a better product manager. This helps you understand what makes agility really work and really become a powerful Agile coach who's not only telling people to get certified and telling them about certain frameworks, but really gets into the details. Like some of what we talked about, assuming positive intent, the view of the human being, psychological safety, the how to create alignment, all the stuff. Down to if you want to get into the technicalities about automated test-driven development in hardware, in software, in services, and mitigating the blast radius and all this stuff. Like we do all of that so that you learn it. Also the coaching techniques and a lot of psychology is involved here so that you're really well versed to help an organization become an Agile organization fully. Do the Agile transformation with them. That's the goal. And that will also make most people more money than they did before. So it basically pays for itself in less than a year, usually. So if you're interested, come. The next batch will start in April, late April. You can register now, and then it will run from April to October. As I said, you can do it in parallel to your job. And let's because I just love to talk. Let's continue. I love to give you some information for free. So solutions, there are some solutions that you can use. One thing, you can also find that with my connections on LinkedIn. You might have already seen the 2 guys who wrote the book on team topologies. you can use this idea of team topologies really you have different types of teams. Okay, you have these stream-aligned teams, which is the regular thing that we usually have, the cross-functional stream-aligned teams in agility. But sometimes it makes sense to think about enabling teams, complicated subsystem teams, platform teams. These things are also SAFe took inspiration from that, and they are calling the teams differently, some of them, but it's the same idea and how you combine them. So yeah, SAFe takes that idea and also uses that. SAFe also makes some proposals about how to have that layer above the teams, like how you organize an agile release train, and how you can sync here. Again, it's not about the organizational structure. That's the big misunderstanding with the big picture. I also don't have a solution how to visualize that differently, because yes, there's a lot of stuff to know, but it's not the important stuff. The important stuff is below here. It's down here. Okay, these little bubbles here and the foundation. But yeah, there is things, and also the what's very interesting actually in SAFe is how to manage the portfolio, the lean budgeting. How you do that. Also participatory budgeting is that little PB here. Participatory budgeting. I find that very interesting to help you create that portfolio and not get into the start-stop mentality of project. Like always project budgets, then you have to kind of estimate everything down to the detail, the nitty-gritty detail. Then you are granted the budget, then you have to re-estimate again because the budget was too big. Or your ask for the budget was too big, then you re-estimate it to fit the budget expectations. It's crazy how companies work. And then and then you're granted that, and then you can work for a few months until the budget runs out, and then you have to do the whole dance again. This is just ridiculous. Just work. Okay, and this is lean budgets and participatory budgeting help you to get that done. Okay, it's not restricted to SAFe. You can do that without outside of SAFe as well. So SAFe is basically kind of they accumulated many different ideas into one package. That's kind of the value they have. There's so much here. Another way to think about the other levels in the company, other flight levels, is the Klaus Leopold's flight level approach. And these are not necessarily different people here on the different levels. These are just maybe the same people, but doing different things, thinking about different stuff. It's like you when you sometimes are with your head down in your work and you're just working, and then suddenly you take a step back and you plan what to do next. So you're on the higher level, but it's not a different person planning for you. It's just yourself. It's just the same people. Okay, it doesn't always need managers here. Okay, sometimes it helps, but not always. You might recognize this. It looks a lot like the team topologies, and it's inspired by that. I mean, part of it is. There's more to it. The unfixed model by Johan Apollo, the guy who invented Management 3.0. I think this is also an interesting model. This is kind of like Lego for organizations. It's interesting. It's a little bit what Alexander Osterwalder did with business models. Like build this simple set of this simple tool to kind of recreate the business models of many companies, to compare them and to find patterns. And this is the same thing here. Like Jochen, if you follow Unfix, if you go there, highly recommend it. I don't get anything for that. I just love it. Is that he reconstructs different organizations, different companies, different organizational ideas, like matrix organizations, like maybe SAFe and less and all that. And just so you have a visual representation, you can compare them, you can see the patterns, and then you can use some of them. It's nice. This is the Ken Schreiber scaling approach for Scrum teams. It doesn't scale too far. But it's a nice approach. If you just have like 3-4 teams, this is a straightforward, nice approach to scale right away. Scrum at Scale, I didn't have time to take a look at that. This is Jeff Sutherland, the other guy from Scrum. I learned from Ken Schreiber. I know him. I don't know Jeff Sutherland personally. So, and I haven't checked out that approach, but I've heard good things about Scrum at Scale. So I'm going to have to do that. And of course, this being inspired by Spotify. We all know that Spotify is not a framework or a model to follow. Yeah, Spotify model. We are allowed to call it Spotify model, I guess. But get inspiration from that. Here, the alignment part that we already talked about, the cross-pollination that happens, the open source principle, okay, how standards spread. Use these ideas. Don't copy the Spotify model, but use the ideas where appropriate, okay? They have great stuff going on here. And yeah, these are just a few solutions and patterns for organizing an agile company, organizing agile teams with all the challenges. And I think this is the tool set that agile coaches need. We need to know it all starts with the view of the human being, with that different one. Then you can accept that, for example, here you can let people make the decisions. But it's not done by simply telling them you are a self-managing team now, go, because that won't work. There are important things that need to be in place, like that clear goal, show it to them, don't micromanage them, trust them. And if they make a wrong decision and they make a bad decision, don't punish them. Applaud them for making the decision in the first place, even if it was wrong. So that's slowly building the culture. And as agile coaches, we have to help teams and organizations to get there. And this is how we build agile organizations. It's not that organizational chart anymore. It's more like a network of people, but it's not unstructured in that way. It's different things that structure that. In one workshop that I do, or one training that I do, it's not a workshop, it's a training, on agile leadership. I actually have a nice image, don't have it here right now, where you see that in a traditional information, we have an organization, in a traditional organization, and I'll go back to my face here so you see it, we have a lot of external structure. Like we have clear job descriptions, responsibilities, external structure. And there's little internal structure. People cannot decide much. They don't have much autonomy, which doesn't feel great over longer time. And what we do when we do an agile transformation is we slowly ramp up the psychology is involved. And on the ACE program, actually, I have a psychologist and psychology expert there as well who does sessions. Because you need to understand techniques like the inner team, like emotional regulation, like also where habits come from and how you can change them. To manage yourself. Learn to manage yourself before you learn to manage others. That's important. And it's a step that many managers skipped, I sometimes think. There are great managers out there, by the way. I met awesome managers, so I don't want to blame all of them. But sometimes there is the Peter principle. I can talk about that another time. Those of you who know it know what it is. And this is why sometimes people end up in management positions that might not be a fit or might not even want to be there. So this psychology part is important for becoming an agile company. And you ramp up the inner structure of people, like the capability of managing themselves as a person and also within the team to self-manage. So we ramp up that inner structure and then we ramp down the external structure so we can get rid of the external management structure. We cannot get rid of the managers. They are very important people. Still, we need them. But they need to do different things, not making decisions and bossing people around. And the the pitfall sometimes happening is that we ramp down the outer structures, the external structures, without ramping the internal structures first, or at the same time at least. And that's something that's very important to me, to do that in an agile transformation. So, and with that, yeah, just check out the ACE program if you're interested in that. But that's deep. Maybe a first step, if you like to, you can go to the Agile Compass, and then that's for free, and you can get more knowledge. And also join me here on more live sessions. I'm happy that the chat is now working. I made that work, but I cannot send messages like to the LinkedIn comments. Like for me, it's a chat. For you, it's comments, and it's kind of read only for me. So I cannot send comments to that unless I go on LinkedIn, and then this is a whole different story. So yes, see you next time here in the next live session. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening that long, for participating. Everyone who's seeing that as a recording, also thank you for taking the time to go through that. I hope you got value out of this. You got some inspiration. And feel free to get in contact with me if you have more questions, or if you have specific issues that you are facing right now in what you do. And with that, it's already dark here where I am in Europe. Wish you a good night or a nice rest of the day, and see you next time. Thank you.